know that doing Reiki for my sister, I'm gonna just let it go. I know that doing Reiki for my sister, I just didn't think I could do Reiki on my sister, and she allowed me to do Reiki on her, and it's just like, oh, well, I don't know if she's feeling anything, because it's like, I'm her sister, you know what I'm saying, and I was nervous and stuff like that, and then sometimes it's just like that Reiki is like, it's no physical manifestation. A lot of times it's just a spiritual manifestation, and you're interacting with a person quietly, and sometimes you're putting your hands on, sometimes you're not, or whatever, because you can do Reiki with or without touch. And it's just like, okay, so now what is happening? And so when my sister was like, oh yes, I felt it. Okay, I'm fine. And she jumped up and she was fine and everything. And I was just like, wow, it's just like, I didn't know that. And then another time, my Spirit spoke to me and was like, well, people, same thing. Oops, I'm going to say something that you were saying earlier, but it was my own experience. It's like people don't even know you do the tarot card readings or anything, because you never take your stuff with you. So my sister and her partner were here in town, and we went out to eat, and Spirit was like, well, bring your stuff with you. So I brought all my stuff with me, and we're sitting there at Taco Mac, and I had the cards on the table, and it's not like they even really believe in it. However, my sister believes in me, and so she let me do a reading for her right there on the table, right at Taco Mac, and people were walking by like, oh, what are you doing, or whatever. But it was just an act of faith for me, and she stepped in that act of faith with me. And so then when I did the reading for her, she's like, oh wow, that is like, that's a reading, that's true.
I have a cousin like that who, so like growing up, I grew up in the church. And I'm thankful for that, because that's what got me. Jesus is what got me here, I will say. Because trying to like figure out faith. This whole journey was faith, I would say. Because it's like, things happen where you're like, is that for real? Like, did that just happen? You have to have faith to believe in that. But what my cousin, you know, she's very heavily into the church, and I love her to pieces. And she came to visit me from Cleveland, Ohio, a few months ago, and she goes, Tiffany, can you give me a Reiki? And I'm like, okay. You know, are you sure? I will. Okay. And then she asked me to read her cards, and so now almost like every Sunday, I do distant reading for her, but I pull her cards for her.
And it's just like, because I've met people who, I was at the event, it was actually Baba's birthday, and I didn't even know, and that's the thing that I enjoy about it, is like Spirit just showing me different ways that my gift works and operates, and I don't even know it. It's just like we're at a birthday party, everybody's having a good time, and people are just like, will you read, because I had my cards with me, because I had started bringing my cards everywhere. And so this one gentleman who was there, he's like, well, I don't believe in tarot cards, you know, that he said some kind of name for it. And I'm just like, okay, well, I understand that. And then all of a sudden we started talking. Next thing you know, I'm doing a reading on him without the cards. And he's looking at me like, how do you know that? How did that happen? Whatever. But we were connecting with each other, because in that moment when he started talking to me, he gave me permission to be on the same frequency as him. And so once I was on the same frequency with him, I just started talking. The cards, the crystals, or whatever, you're just connecting on the same frequency. And if it's against someone's spiritual thing, they don't want the cards or whatever, they've heard bad things about the cards or whatever, my ultimate thing is just to be respectful, you know, to the person. My daughters are Christians, and so when my youngest daughter's like, Mommy, where'd you get your crystals from? I'm like, okay, you're a Christian. Yes, I want to go there and get my crystals. And I'm just like, I'm going to heal myself. And I'm like, whoa, you know. So I've been wanting to hear that. However, it's allowing people to have their own journey, because they need that part, and they need to know that themselves. You know?
It's really that person's own journey. It's like nothing you can force on anybody, not even yourself. I know at points in my journey, it is like giving birth, and it's like you feel the Spirit. It's like, Tiff, you can do more, and then there's times where I pull back, but I know it's the right timing, right? Like I'm on my own frequency, on my own path. But I will say, like, what I try to do is just always try my best to come from a place of love, because just like the guy you spoke to at the party, like his guard was up, but because you were just you, and the thing is we all are love our fear, right? And and so you broke down that fear barrier from him just from being who you are. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
It is amazing how it happens, and I just wanted to pass that on to people who are, scrolling through and having their moments of uncertainty and doubt and stuff like that. And it's just like the spirit world is here, and you're getting the messages because you're ready to get the message, and you may not pick up on the message for a long time. I remember we have Seven Bomar in common.
Oh my God,
that was like a whole thing. It's like she introduced me to Seven Bomar. I didn't realize I had so many still Christian things tied up in my belief system. And when I was listening to Seven Bomar, I called up Tiffany. I said, oh, well, he said this and he said that, and she just said, if you're not ready for him, then leave it alone. It wasn't for you. And she said it just so simple, and I was coming at her hard because
which was a good thing for me. I was like,
I get all hyper. And he said this, and he contradicted himself, and this and that. And then she also mentioned about people growing. And then later on, he mentioned it himself. He's like, I've been doing this for 10 years. You may go back and I was listening to everything, because once she introduced me to him, it was just so great. I listened to everything. It was like a lifeline for me. And so going back and listening to somebody where they were 10 years ago as opposed to today, and he was just trying to figure it out. He had a nervous breakdown, and for 2 weeks had lost his mind for 2 weeks. And so at that point, he wasn't even supposed to come back from insanity. When you listen to his whole story, and he doesn't like to tell it a lot because he doesn't like people to chop it up or anything. I just think that it's so important because in my previous interview, if you go look at the interview that I did with Raphael, I didn't even mean to talk about all of that stuff. I don't have any problem with talking about it. It doesn't bother me or anything. I'm transparent or whatever. I realize that some people are gonna not want to be around me because, oh, she's this, she's that, or whatever. And some people are going to hear about my past and different. I wasn't a good mother for like 10 years, even my own kids. I'm just like, oof, I was not a good mother for like 10 years. And that was like the hardest thing for me to say, because to admit that I wasn't a mother for 10 years, that I was a terrible mother for 10 years. I was in counseling for 20 some years, actually, until I actually moved here to Atlanta. And it was no way for me to be in counseling anymore. And then I picked up the spiritual world. So all that counseling and everything. However, it started with me just admitting who I was, admitting who was happening, going to my children and being like, it's okay if you guys want to go file a police report on me and say my mother abused me, she beat me, she did whatever. I just was, the old school beatings, I don't even know why I'm saying it. I hate for my grandkids to even get tapped. But it's like the old school beatings we got and stuff like that. That stuff is abusive in this world. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I didn't have the strength to stand up and not do what was done to me. Mm-hmm. And I did it to my children. And someone else may come in and be like, oh, it's not so bad. I got beat. Did you beat him with stitching cords? No, I beat him with a belt. Whatever I did to them, it wounded my spirit and it wounded my children's spirit. And so at that point, I wanted to acknowledge that. And so if that is called abuse, it's abuse. I was abusive to my children. I'm sorry. Whether I passed on whatever at times, so many times I used to feel so guilty because I wasn't able to be strong enough. I know I was in, because I have my degree in psychology. And you don't want to go to psychology. It's just like you learn stuff that breaks you down. So anyway, I learned that out of, only 30% of abused children abuse their children. So that means 70% have a choice. Mm-hmm. So when I found out that I was, the part of that, I was like, oh my God, I could have done something different. And I felt so bad about myself. I felt bad about being weak. I felt like I couldn't be anything else. I felt like the Spirit could never use me. I felt all these things. So now that it's coming up on the blue couch where I'm reaching out to people who are feeling disenfranchised, people are feeling like their mistake clouds their whole life. Now, come on, you got to be realistic. Some people aren't going to forgive you. I mean, my 2 youngest daughters, they're in and out on the forgiveness and stuff like that. My oldest daughter is full on in the blame game. When she does call me up, she brings up all kind of stuff and different things like that. And we've gotten to the point where I just told her, I said, baby, I love you. I am sorry. I hear you. We have to work through this situation with a counselor. Because when you talk to me and call me, it's just painful for you. And as a mother, I understand that even the slightest word that I say can wound you. And so it needs to be translated through a counselor. So it doesn't have to be now. In this lifetime, she may never forgive me. However, I've forgiven myself.
And that's
however, like my middle daughter, and she's like me, so she won't mind me saying it. But my little daughter, she put me on blast on Facebook. She called me every kind of name, the B word. She said all this other kind of stuff. She went into all that. And I realized that that was just her pain. And when I talked to her about it, because of course she's sorry. And when I talked to her about it, it's like, my whole point is that whatever I was, I still have a right to be.
Right.
I may not have a right to be in my daughter's life, and that's fine, because the wages, when you read the scriptures, the wages of sin is death. And what is death? Death to the way of life you would have had if you wouldn't have done the shit you did. So don't expect unrealistic stuff from people. You can't even forgive people for doing. I can't forgive people for doing stuff sometimes. So you want someone else to forgive you? Right. It may not happen.
Well, you know, it all goes to the ego, right? Which is something that 98% of human beings don't realize they're living with, right?
Don't realize it.
But I think that, you know, most of us wake up every day and that ego gets in there and it's all about me. And you just gotta catch yourself. But that is a hard thing to do, and it's something you have to learn. Like, you have to learn, like, that voice that you hear, and we all hear it all day, that people call your conscience. It is literally your ego. It is like the red devil and the white angel on your shoulder, and all day you gotta be like, wait, oh, that's ego over there. Let me suppress it. And the ego doesn't like that.
No, you know? Definitely. And that's the other thing about the journey, when you have to get to the inside. I had to get rid of all that because it was standing in the way of the woman that I am now. If I didn't accept myself and love myself and forgive myself, I could have never been sitting here on the couch. And so I had to go to people and free myself. I had to go to my children and say, look, file the police report. If I have to go to jail for 5 years, 7 years, whatever, let me go serve my time and come back out. I could still be studying inside a jail or whatever. I could work for myself if someone won't hire me. It's just like whatever blocks you put in your own way of your healing, it was like totally removing those blocks. It's like I would rather live an authentic, healed life than live a fake life forever. And so you have to face the good and the bad about yourself. I have a right to love myself, even the parts of myself that weren't so lovable and kind or whatever. And then I also have to take responsibility for not excusing myself or saying someone else abused me, someone else hurt me, someone else did whatever. I have to take accountability for myself and the things that I've done in my life, and from there heal those things so that you can heal all the way, so you don't have false healings taking place. When I just read on, I usually don't look at the news or anything, but when I'm on my phone, it was this pastor, and he killed himself, he killed his wife, he killed his son, and his daughter was just thankfully at college. Oh, wow. So it's like we bind ourselves and don't offer anyone reconciliation, a path of restoration. And it's like we all need that. Right now we can get on the phone and call people, and you can think you're the greatest person in the world, but you have hurt somebody's feelings. You have done somebody wrong. You have been the wrong person in the situation. You may not have been as wrong as someone else or as bad as someone else. However, who put these degrees in place? Is it a degree for a pedophile? Is it a degree for a murderer? Is it a degree for this or that? It's like we're blocking our own selves in. And so with the blue couch, I'm just offering, there's a way of restoration. There's a way for you to be whole. There's a way for you to still operate in your gift. Even if you're in prison, you're still operating in your gift. You should not want to not have your rightful punishment for what you've done. Yes, if someone offers you grace, we all want grace. Yeah. However, if someone doesn't, you need to know that you're still okay wherever you are. Go ahead and heal, and there's a gift and a purpose for your life.
And I
still
think, and one thing that, on a spiritual level, we sign up for our journey before we even get here, right? So like, some people are a little bit further along than others, and some people, like, I know this is probably close to being my last lifetime. Probably got about maybe 2 more.
This is it for me.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, I can only imagine who I was in different lifetimes and how I have grown, and it's okay, right? Because it's all about that experience. We are all connected. We are all one. Your experience is your experience, and it is true. Like, don't block. I always say it's like blocking your blessing because you put so many stipulations around yourself, and it's just like, just let all those guards down, which is easier said than done.
It is. It's necessary. And I think that one thing that helped me heal, because when I was in therapy, I just let all my guards down. And my therapist was just like, my kids were 8 and 10, and my therapist and the baby who's a baby was in my stomach, and she was, my therapist was like, I told her everything, and she says, if you touch these children again, I'm gonna turn you in child protective services. And that started my journey of healing and parenting and everything else like that, or whatever. And so my baby who was in the stomach, she benefited from the fact that I was now up under the care of someone who can help me be a better parent. Right. And now she's an extraordinary, wonderful young woman. She'll be 25 years old this year. Oh, awesome. And she has I have an incredible 3-year-old granddaughter, spiritual and everything like that. And so basically it's like, Spirit had told me a long time ago that I was going to be the one who broke the curse of abuse off of our family. Awesome. And so it started with me being transparent and first saying, I'm an abuser. I abuse myself. I abuse my children, stuff like that. And then from there, once I stood in it, no one else, now the abuse can't take place. Now you can't go around and say, well, my mom did it to me, so I'm doing it to my children. Now all you can do is say, well, my mom did do it to me, but I've watched her for 20 years be in counseling, so I better get myself in counseling and get myself together. Now we have a legacy of counseling. Now we have a legacy of we don't have to hide. Because when you have to hide who you really are, when you have to hide someone's hurting you, when you have to hide all these things, it's not a good feeling.
And it's not free. And I feel like our spiritual selves just want to be free.
Just wants to be free.
And that's why when you get ready to go through your spiritual awakening, you feel this tension, you feel this like tug of war and struggle. And I think the biggest thing I struggled with was like, what will people think?
Yes.
So I struggled with like, what will my family think? Like I remember my mom was like, so do you worship the devil? Do you still believe in God? I'm like, you don't even understand how close I am with God right now. Like we are on a whole nother level. Like, I think I was very nervous about how my husband would judge me, which he didn't. Like it's so amazing, like how he's just come along for the journey and accepted me for who I am. Yes. I was nervous about because I felt like, okay, I live this life of like, I'm a corporate executive person and I got this record thing going on, and I realized that's okay. Yes. Because I know that I go to work every day and I have helped people. Yeah. I have literally let my guard down enough to say, let me read your tarot, let me give you this crystal, this is what I'm feeling today, I'm gonna give you some Reiki as you sit in your cubicle today. And they have accepted me for who I am. And I think for the longest, I think the first time I had started having dreams about people who were gonna die close to me, I must have been about 7. So and my family had told me like these things are gonna happen because we just have like that runs in our bloodline. And so I hid it from people because I was like, I don't know how people are gonna accept it. And I will say, like, being an African American woman, I think that has also been a struggle because I feel like there's a lot of us now, there could be more, but I think a lot of times as African Americans, we sometimes, and some people might not want to hear this, but we sometimes get caught up on the whole church thing. Yeah. And then you are scared to truly live out what you're feeling because you're afraid of like what your mom, grandma, auntie, uncle may say about you no longer going to church or, you know, what's those crystal things? Well, they actually talk about them in Genesis. You should read up on it.
Go ahead, educate.
You know, or, you know, why do you have tarot? Or, and I think this is the thing, when you realize the power that you have spiritually, there is a very thin line between what someone would call good and evil. Yeah. Because you do have the power to do a lot, and you can choose how you choose to use it. Yeah. I come from a place of light, but I'm also not judging that person who decides to come from a place of, you know, darkness, because we do have to accept our darkness too. You do. You have to accept all sides of you have to accept all sides of yourself, and you have to accept the consequences of your actions. And things like that. So it's like a whole journey. That's why I'm so grateful for the community. Every step that I went through got me to the place where I was with the right people. I'm with tribe. I'm with people who can keep me in check. I'm with people who can stand in the gap with me. Yeah. I'm in people who hold me spiritually, even when we don't see each other. We don't see each other. We think about each other, whatever, and come across each other's mind, send distance Reiki to each other. We do all kind of things because once you're connected with your spiritual community, and that's the important thing of, you know, my tribe is ready to be gathered. I have tribe gatherers. So the people who are ready to be connected to me are ready to be connected to me. And it's like, let's get this journey started. It's been hard for me to have a straight no chaser personality because it rubs people the wrong way. I'm no longer in corporate. I just wanted to be free all the way. I'm accepting the consequences of not being in corporate, where you don't have the paycheck, where you have to think about where you're going to get your money from. You have to do some things that you probably don't want to do or whatever along this journey. However, there are people who need to stay in corporate because corporate needs that spirit. Corporate needs to have a place where people can go when they're going through so much in corporate, and then you have a spiritual person who's there, who's calm, who's not up and down like that. You're calm, you know how to navigate, you can see through the energies that are happening, so you can guide your team and guide the people. And it's so appreciated. Like, I have friends who, like, they call me the dream whisperer. They come to work and be like, Tiff, I had this dream. What was that dream about? And I would like break it down for them, dissect it. It's funny because I was at I'm not gonna call it names, but I was at a place that I was working. I worked there for about 3 years, and it was very somewhat laid back, still corporate, but it was very accepting of who I am. Now, the universe has me in a very corporate place, very like conservative. But I'm also a place in my life where I'm just who I am, and they have also accepted me for who I am. And so that's a really good feeling. But I think that if I was where I am now, 5 years ago, I would have still been behind the screen, trying to be like, hey, what you want me to do? You want me to read your cards? Come over, or call me on the phone. Let's go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? And like, so it's really cool to know that like, people are just people, and as long as I'm being who I am, my authentic self, either you will accept it or you won't, and then eventually maybe you will. And then it's just like what I've noticed over the past weeks and different things like that, and months that I've been working. Today is my anniversary. I walked away from my job 3 months ago today, and thank you. And so walking, even with my my life partner, it was hard because his spiritual thing is something different. Of course, all of ours are different, and you wonder how you're going to match that with your partner. And I know when he saw the things that I was setting up or whatever, he was like, oh, this is great. And then when he asked me for the first time to do Reiki on him, I couldn't do Reiki on him because I was just like, I thought that he didn't believe in it that way, or different things and stuff like that. And so then I was afraid to let people know, him know, or anybody know that I did my tarot cards and different things like that. So when I would talk to him about the things that I'm doing and services I provide for my clients,
he's just like, I can see you doing that. I can see why people are coming to you. People are hurting. People have this false face and false self that they present to the world, and they're in so much pain behind that, and they need somebody who has the gifts that you have. And like my straight no chaser ways is like, I always tell people when they come do these cards, and
you have to pull mine before we go.
Okay. When they come do these cards, it's like people come to me and they're, I gave the example, people come and they already have in mind what they want me to tell them. My arm is broken. I want you to tell me that my arm is broken. And I'll tell them, your arm may be broken, but what I see is that your femoral artery is cut and you're going to bleed to death in about 2 minutes. So we need to work on that, not your arm, because it won't matter if your arm's broken if you're dead. And so that's basically what these cards are. These cards are saying, if you're spiritually dead, what's a broken arm? And so these cards get to the heart of the matter. They get to what's blocking you or what's concerning you, so that you can work on yourself spiritually. Because if you aren't spiritually alive, the physical death, you're just the walking dead.
It's so funny. I heard this analogy one time. So when I first was introduced to Reiki, my experience altogether, I thought I was going to see a chiropractor, and by trade she is a chiropractor.
Yes.
But I think I told you this. We go, and this is my Reiki master who did my 2 and 3, my level 2 and 3. So I go in with a girlfriend of mine at the time, and I'm like, this is cool spot. I see the sage, I see these crystal things, I don't know what they are, but it smells good in here. And during the middle of her conversation with her, she turns to me and she says, what's your name? And I tell her. She says, where are you from? And I thought it was odd, because I'm like, you're trying to do that over there. And so she was like, and so she goes back to what she's doing, and then she turns back to me again and she goes, what's your name? And I was like, Tiffany. And she's like, and you said that you are from Atlanta? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, you won't be here forever, type of thing, right? And I was like, okay. At the time, me and my husband were trying to move somewhere else. So I was like,